Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ginger Flicks. I'm Josh,
I'm Joey.
and we're here today to talk to you about Dolemite Is My Name.
The return of Eddie Murphy to guest comedy, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, what was like the last comedy he was in, Shrek 4 or something like that?
That was probably the most recent passable comedy.
At best,
At
right?
best.
And those weren't even good. I think, to me anyway, Shrek 1 was good. After that, I think it just went downhill.
The first two were good.
Okay, all right.
I remember watching those a lot. And they came out when we were in our late teens.
Exactly.
We were like 20s.
We were teenagers, and instead of going to parties, we were watching Shrek. So that gives you an idea of us, I guess.
Yes. Especially because I looked like Shrek in human form. What?
You need to stop painting yourself green. It's really upsetting.
Human? Okay. Anyway, so yes.
You said you wanted to warn people because we might actually do some cursing.
Yeah, spoiler alert. I mean, with a movie like this, there will be cursing. It's just kind of the subject matter, so there will be some harsh language in the most lovable way. So if you'd like to tune out, now would be the time.
Josh is going to swear a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Like every other word.
That's it.
Yeah. You're going to hear him swear.
You guys are in for a real treat today, let me tell you.
Oh, geez.
So, yes, come along on this journey with us.
Come along. We've already started, eh?
Well, re-welcome. Anyway, what are our initial thoughts of the movie?
I loved it. I thought it was a return to form for Eddie in terms of comedic work. Because, again, like we just said, we haven't seen him do anything pretty good in a long time. Mm-hmm. Right? And, so this came out before his episode on Saturday Night Live. So...
Oh, yeah.
It's just been like a bit of a snowball, and it's kind of exciting to see what else he's got coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those, I think he knocked it out of the park with this one.
Oh, I agree.
But it wasn't just him. Like,
oh, no, not at all. I mean, everybody worked so well together in this group.
It's his story. For me, I've now watched it twice. The first time and the second time, I had a smile on my face the entire movie. It's like you're rooting for the guy. There's just such a... I use the word earnest. It's a very, like, sincere movie in a way. You know, you can really relate with these characters, even though it's set in such a time that neither you or I were around, or in places or experiences we've ever had.
In no way, shape, or form.
But they do it in such a way.
Maybe the sex scene.
Well, you and I, my friend.
I mean, the ceiling comes down every time when I do it.
Well, I thought when we. Anyway.
That too.
But. No, it's so good.
Every time.
Every single time. So much construction at the house. Anywho.
There's a reason why I joined the industry, the construction industry.
Well, we had to save money.
I had to fix things myself, right?
You gotta spend money to make money. Anyway.
Damn straight.
Anyway.
Sorry to take you off on a tangent there, but again, if you haven't seen this movie, watch it just for that sex scene alone.
Man, it's in my notes.
It is hilarious.
Like, it's one of those moments, too. I guess we can talk about this more a little later.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
The way they get there, too, you know, it's... Like, what was so cool about this movie is that there wasn't scenes where it was just comedy or just drama or just
it was very
suspense.
well balanced.
It was just like there'd be really funny with a little bit of emotion, a little bit. There was emotion in the comedy. It was balanced. Yeah, definitely well balanced. And it would take you in a couple places that you don't necessarily expect to go because of the subject matter they'd be talking about.
I honestly bought the group of friends. So Eddie Murphy, Craig Robinson, was that Mike Epps?
Let's talk about the cast. Mike Epps. Titus Burgess.
Thank you, Titus Burgess.
Yeah, the four of them.
The four of them, they worked so well together, and they all brought their full strengths to it. And it's just, I can't help but think that the other three actors were kind of comedic actors specifically, were had to have
Yeah.
been somewhat starstruck at some point
Yeah.
to be literally sharing scenes with
Eddie Murphy. 100%.
I mean,
Eddie Murphy, Wesley Snipes.
another.
You know
like,
what I mean? He's
I forgot he did comedies.
well.
Like he started out doing
I haven't really
comedies.
seen him do comedies.
I think
didn't
the
watch
last, like again, the last comedic thing that Wesley Snipes did, and this was early in his career, was
Expendables. No,
no, not even. I think that was a little more tongue in cheek, yes, but not that kind of comedy.
Yeah.
But it was Major League.
Yeah,
Was
and he
like the
only did
last-
the first one.
Yeah,
He didn't even come back for the
and
second
he
one.
was hilarious in the first one. He was
don't-
honestly one of the better parts.
I don't even know if I've ever
Like
actually
it's
watched
such a
that whole
small,
movie.
it's such a
He's-
small part in it, but he's good.
Well, I thought he was one of the main characters.
No, but it's compared to like
Charlie
say
Sheen?
Charlie Sheen.
Mm-hmm.
His part was considerably smaller, but it's still he's really good at it, and it just shows his range as an actor.
It's funny because he had moments like in certain movies, Passenger 57, White Man Can't Jump.
Oh, I'm forgetting the one he did with Patrick Swayze and John Leguizamo was the last comedy
Tu
he did.
Wong Fu.
Yeah,
I never-
He
you know
was
what?
the third
Yeah.
drag queen.
I never actually watched that. I've heard it's amazing.
It's hilarious.
It's Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, right?
Kind of, but
in Americanized.
yes,
But no, I never saw that movie, and I heard it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I heard it's really funny. But you know, he always had sides of comedy because the thing about Wesley Snipes, you know, whatever, he might not be the greatest actor or
his
anything like that.
facial expressions.
His reactions are always so
Oh
good.
my God. Even in this
Blade,
movie.
but even in Blade, when most of the time he's got shades on, he always had really good reactions to some of the nonsense that was happening, right? And you know, those aren't acting stretches by any means for those movies, but he's always been like that. And with this one, he was allowed to go a little over the top.
His eyes were so expressive
The
in like
whole
one
time.
scene, like well, for the whole time. But I mean, which scene was it where he's like talking to Eddie Murphy, and I think it was just sort of setting him up for their final scene together, whatever. And he's telling him how to use all that
Yeah,
energy.
he's like,
whatever.
you got to dig deep and
His
all that.
eyes are just so like bulging out
Well, I mean,
at the end of it, and he's kind of like,
but the character is a little coked out.
there's that too.
You can
which-
see, well, the moment when he insults, what's her name, Lady Ray,
yeah.
and Eddie cuts him off, and you can tell he's like, you know, brother, I'm just trying, like I'm just playing or whatever, and you know, he starts like sniffing, like you knew
Yeah,
he was,
yeah. No,
he's that.
the character is coked out.
But that
I mean,
was I thought that was great to see him in this movie too. I think for both of them, because Wesley Snipes, you know, hadn't. You
they
know,
haven't had a good go of things lately in terms, be it career wise or outside of it.
yeah,
And
like
let's leave it at that.
you know, but it was great to see them both. And so in terms of the cast, yeah, you know, the mains being Eddie, it was great to see him in this role. Wesley was awesome, and then you had, you know, you had Craig Robinson, and you had Titus Burgess and Mike Epps. Like, same thing with Mike Epps. I haven't seen a lot of movies with him, but the ones I saw were not great. I mean, maybe
I liked him in the Fridays.
I was gonna say maybe next Friday. I never saw the third one, but those are okay. They're not. I don't think they're great movies by any means.
No,
but
they're
okay.
they're fun. They're
But
funny. but,
what I loved
yeah.
was they leaned into their talents. Like, you can't have a movie with Craig Robinson where he doesn't play some sort of instrument or sing. Like, he always does that, right? He did it in The Office. He did it in maybe Pineapple Express was the only one where he didn't do that,
and he was amazing
Knocked
in that
Up,
too.
right? But I felt like they leaned into their strength.
But I think Knocked Up was like one of his first movies.
Yeah, where he just sat, you know,
Where he was
just
a bouncer at the
bouncer
door.
for one scene, right? That's it.
You're not old for the earth, but you old for this club.
Yeah. Oh God, so good. And then you know what? I'm not familiar with that actress, but her name's Davon something. She was great, and to be honest, she gave such a. Again, I use the word earnest, but that moment at the end where she says to him, you know, she thanks him for putting her in that movie.
Yeah.
And she's like, I ain't never seen nobody that looks like me on the screen, on the big screen.
There's a real
And she's like, I may not be sexy.
sincerity to everybody's performance.
Yeah.
Like a real, like
that was, again, what I felt was good about it. They didn't tell you, this is a really sad moment and you need to be sad here. It was just, this is what's happening. And you react to it as an audience member, you know? There's so many great highlights in this movie.
Oh, yes, sir.
You know, trying to go in order somewhat, but for me, it's, you know, there's some great, you know, what was I gonna say? When he first finds his groove on stage as Dolemite,
like in that first scene,
that first time he comes out as Dolemite,
yeah,
and then is it the guy, the drummer, gives him that like, and he looks at him and he's like, no, cut it with that Buddy Hackett shit, and he's like, no, he's like, put some swing into it, and he starts. You know, we went down in the jungle deep.
He starts feeling it.
Oh man,
yeah.
It was so good because again, what Eddie does in this movie is he's already not Eddie, right? He's a little over the top, but you could see him playing a character, playing another character, and you see how
He's a dude
evolves
dressed
in that.
as a dude disguised as another dude.
Yes, but yeah, like, and that moment was so good, and you get drawn in, and I loved that.
It's funny. The only thing I've seen Divine Joy Randolph in was Office Christmas Party, and she has such a small part in that, and it's hilarious.
I don't know if I watched that. I can't remember.
It's got Jason Bateman, T.J. Miller, Jennifer Aniston. Whatever.
Is that the one where T.J. Miller and Jennifer Aniston are related?
Yes.
And then he ends up putting like $300,000 into it himself,
or something like that.
Something like that at the end.
Oh yeah, it's
okay,
insane.
I watched that.
It's insane, and she plays like the tough security guard or whatever.
Right,
and she's funny in it for like her 3 scenes.
Yeah,
but I mean, it like this one, like I can see what you mean. She had such a sincerity and an earnestness to her few dramatic scenes, and it gave you. Like each performance gave you a little bit more, made you want a little bit more out of them, and it delivered in so many respects.
Yeah, I loved, you know, when you first meet her, she decks the guy, right? And you see, again, Eddie just reacting.
But he sees it from sees it on stage.
Yeah.
She sees it. He notices.
He's backstage. He's peering through the curtains.
Not even, like he's on stage too. Like during his performance, and he notices that she's the only one in the room not laughing at his jokes.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, from when that to when he sits down with her and she's this like tough, you know, she's gone through a hard time. This guy cheated on her and all that stuff. And, you know, and she's got a kid, and which we never see in the movie, by the way.
Oh, he's there. He's literally, there's like 2 scenes where the kid's just sitting right next to her.
Yeah.
He's literally just there.
But again, they're
living up to the phrase my dad always used to say: "Children should be seen and not heard." And
snap!
That's just mean, Dad.
But their chemistry was great, and it was not in a love interest way. It was just in a, you know, she says in the movie, "I'm his protege," right? And it's like, yeah, you are. It was so good. I thought they were excellent, and yeah. So I mean, going through like some scenes, you know, from Dolemite to. Another scene I loved is his writing scene, not the one. Excuse me. Eddie and Ray. Eddie and Keegan-Michael Key. Sorry, not Ray. When they're writing, it's so good, and that's what was so. The word that Keegan-Michael Key's character says to Rudy Ray Moore is he's like, "You're very tenacious. You've got tenacity," or whatever. Yeah. And that's exactly the right word for his character. Because he's just got the balls. The whole movie is like, he's, you know, it's one of those characters, I'm not taking no for an answer. But he's so adamant that he's going to make it. And then he's so good at persuading people. And that's what was really, really cool to watch. And I love that writing scene. When he's
found like Eddie... did a good job of conveying Rudy Ray Moore's charm. Like I've never seen any of Rudy Ray Moore's work.
Neither have I.
But from the performance, what I gathered was he was a charming guy, and people sort of gravitated toward that and wanted to work with him based off of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where,
Well, and it's him and his buddies that basically did it.
well, yeah,
He like that's cool, you know. He's got these group of friends that are like, "Okay, man, we trust you. We're on this journey," and that's it. Like that's just one thing. Is like there was just this whole sense of camaraderie throughout the movie. Eddie Murphy played this character that you're rooting for.
oh, totally.
You know, he
Totally.
wasn't like, because there are some shows that you're not like, you know, where the character is actually a jerk, a terrible person.
Oh, like-
where and you still have to root for them. Though.
I sort of said it earlier to you when I thought this was like almost parallel to Disaster Artist in the sense it's a similar type of movie, right?
Right.
Because you're following in many respects a production of a movie, except the only difference is the main character in this is not an unlikable dickhead.
Yeah. Like an ignorant kind of person.
Yeah.
And who has the money.
Oh, that's the thing,
Like
man.
that's it. In the Disaster Artist, you're just like, oh, surprise, he's gonna buy all of his equipment. He's got like millions of dollars to just pay everyone and just do that. Like it still takes a toll on him, of course.
Funny enough, nobody still to this day knows where Tommy Wiseau's money comes from.
Yeah.
And that guy is still pumping out like independent movies,
Yeah.
which are probably not very good.
What's
but
the next one? Or one was called like Best Friends?
Yeah,
But,
Best
like,
Friends.
But with the R in brackets.
for whatever
Supposed to be
reason.
like Best Fiends, I guess.
Yeah, I
or something like
guess.
that.
I could be. I don't know.
I don't know. But no, I absolutely agree. And like that's what was cool is like so Rudy Ray Moore's journey, he has to make it himself. But obviously he's got his friends to help him get there, you know? But he gets those albums out and man, that first scene too where they record in his living room is great.
I was like, shit, if we could have done that, I would love to do that. If only I was funny.
Well, it's like that now it's almost the equivalent of a podcast.
Oh,
you
we
know,
are doing that, aren't we?
yeah, but we're not selling it.
Totally mind blown right now.
But I loved going into some of the scenes. Like I loved that that scene with Keegan-Michael Key and Eddie Murphy, where you know he's telling him, he's like, "No, you got to write it how it is," and then Key's character is, you know, as the writer, he's this acting teacher.
He's almost very serious about it.
It's what was so cool though is that he was the serious character. You know, him and arguably like Wesley Snipes were the two like not realistic but
experienced,
pompous a little bit
in some respects. Yes,
but at the same time, it wasn't so movie where it's like, nope, I'm just the rich person and I'm just the experienced and the artist and that's it. And I will have nothing to do with you. And yeah, you know, in another movie, Eddie Murphy would have to keep jumping through hoops and hoops and hoops to finally get him on board. But it's like, no, they had one conversation.
Yeah.
And he was like, this is how it is. This is
this is what I want to do. And they're like, okay.
And he's like, I appreciate that you've got your art and I dig that. Like, and that's what he says.
Yeah.
But then he's like, you're going to have a chance to reach everybody. And that was the thing where he's like, okay. And he gets on board. And then during the writing scene, it's so silly. But he's like, then all of a sudden he's like, I'm on a kung fu army of women, you know? And he's like, do you know kung fu? No, but I'm a quick learner. Chip chop, right? He's like, what? And their reactions are so
that is
good.
very true.
You know, it was so good. And I love that.
Same thing I really liked though, and this is to just go a bit off topic to like that scene at the very end when he's with the kid.
Yeah.
And they're just going back and forth. I thought that's a perfect like way to end off with this character because it showed the movie wasn't what the ultimate goal was. The goal was to like get to other people.
Yeah.
Right. And he sees that and he's like, okay, I have an audience now. And and you never, I don't think you ever really get that with many people, right? You just don't.
Yeah.
Anymore. And it's just cool to see it in a movie now. So, yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, for me as you know what? I love that scene as well because as a teacher, your goal is that you want your students. You know, I'm a teacher, I'm a judge, and I critique stuff, but I want my students or the next generation to just take something and go forward in their careers. But take something that I taught. And so it's like, that's what he's doing. It's like he created this character and he's got these fans and this little boy that, first of all, shouldn't be watching those movies.
No.
But we all do it.
Or listening to those albums,
Yeah,
right?
but we all did it.
Talking to two guys who would
Well-
stay up late and watch Eddie Murphy's Delirious.
Yeah, at 7 years old, 6 years old. I think I was 6 the first time I saw it. To be honest, Anyway,
Goonie Goo Goo.
but Goonie Goo Goo, the ice cream scene was amazing. Or ice cream bit, I should say. But yeah, so I really related to that, and I loved. Again, it was just this movie was so good in that, for me, yeah, I had a smile on my face, but. Because Eddie Murphy has played these ridiculous characters, and they've, I never saw Norbit, but even the Nutty Professor that was funny back in the 90s, but you couldn't make that now, and I still love them.
I don't think it would do as well now.
No, because it's a parody of itself, right?
But
And
that's
it's these
the thing,
stereotypes, and these stereotypes don't work anymore.
No, I always found it's funny, like the early 2000s and the late 90s in movies, they kind of just went for things.
Well, they went for over the top.
Yeah. And it's crazy.
Over the top, and like movies like Billy Madison wouldn't work now. You couldn't make that movie. You could maybe tweak some things, have him maybe just go to college, something like that. But you couldn't have a grown man in school. It wouldn't make sense.
Sitting with school children.
Yeah, it just wouldn't make sense. Like, a grown man playing dodgeball, like, it's hilarious.
Whips a ball at that kid's head.
Yeah, but it wouldn't work now, right?
And same thing people will be really upset about that.
But same thing with Eddie Murphy in like the Nutty Professor. And then of course he both him and Adam Sandler kept making those silly movies that they were not wanted anymore. He made, for Eddie Murphy it was Pluto Nash.
Oh, that was a disaster from the get-go.
It was
even
awful
in terms of production,
all that stuff, over budget, the story, everything was not good.
But that movie's like over 10 years old. Like that's an early 2000s movie.
Well, that's what I mean. That was the movie that kind of started his downhill.
I could see that
in terms of live action.
He had
stuff.
a decent comeback when he did Dreamgirls. And then
that was it.
And then he kind of went away again.
But that's like Adam Sandler with Funny People. He was great in Funny People, and then all of a sudden he went back to his silly comedies, blended, just go with it, whatever.
Yeah,
Pixels, and Eddie Murphy did that. Dreamgirls was great, and same thing. He very different character, but he played this upbeat singer who had a heroin addiction, who a
little bit darker of a character. I'd say this character was a lot more optimistic.
He was, and he wasn't. The thing is, it was just a different movie, right?
Yes,
just a different atmosphere. Like with this one, because there's that scene where he's talking to, is it Titus, I think? And he says, I got this terrible job, and now it's all, when I moved out here, and then now it's all I have left. And nobody wants to see me. I'm old and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, man, that's his moment where he gets the most pessimistic. And then, but it doesn't last long. It doesn't drop the movie at all, because you're like, man, that sucks. But then right away, he gets it together.
He gets an idea.
He gets that idea, and you're just on this wicked ride with him. And I think
he stole his act from a hobo, though.
Yeah. You know what? And I was saying this to you as well. This movie was, I think, maybe one director away from being a bad movie because of the idea.
How so? Because I kind of cut you off because I wanted to save it for this episode. So,
again, you look at the character, you look at what it's about. It's about a blaxploitation film, right? Which nowadays, that's not going to fly, kind of thing. But if people leaned too heavy into the slapstick or made it too over the top,
too comedic,
not necessarily comedic, it's more like the style of comedy. If it made it more, if the humor was too dirty and parodying itself, it could have been a bad movie. But like when he's Dolemite, he's saying these like, you know, raunchy things, but it's like there's more behind what he's saying. And that's what was good about it. I think the director made us so involved with this character that it didn't matter how he said things or what he said, but it's like we believed it and we wanted more. Like the whole movie, you're like, yeah, I want a movie of this guy. you know, I mean, you're like, yeah, I love these comedy albums. This is great. And now, yeah, I want to see a movie of him. I want to see what they do with this. And it ends up being so good. One scene I loved as well, and again, this is, I believe, was some great acting on Eddie's part, was when because, you know, up until, this is right before, I think, they start filming the movie. And he's in his dressing room, or his room, rather, because he ends up having to sell his apartment, and he's, you know, living on the set. And he's looking at the picture of his dad. Man, that scene killed me.
Where he's sort of rehearsing and like trying to get the character down for a certain scene or whatever.
Well, exactly. But he literally says, you know, he's looking at the picture, and as Rudy, as Dolemite, because first he's like, you know, motherfucker, this farming motherfucker. But then all of a sudden he starts transforming from Rudy, and he's like, look at me now, motherfucker. He's like, want to know who I am? I'm Dolemite. And it was like, because he's not a classically trained actor, that character, right? Rudy, or that person, Rudy Ray Moore. But it's like, he knew, he's like, he looked, also it told a lot about the character, because he kept talking about his father. He kept saying he never wanted to go back to Arkansas, and his father was a terrible person.
It sort of gave an idea.
But all of a sudden he pulls out this picture that he's carried on him. So like
his entire life.
He's probably had, exactly. And I was like, ooh, that's kind of zoned in. And then he became Dolemite again, and he starts looking in the mirror. And
it's such a subtle sort of thing, right? It's almost, in some ways, almost method in terms of the way they sort of approached it.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just a subtle piece of prop, and this all works for this specific character, where it's this subtle prop, and it just takes that moment to look at it, and he uses that anger, that energy, and that just disdain to create such a tough motherfucker, for a lack of a better word. And it's so quick and so instant, and that it's just, you don't see that often in movies anymore, or in a comedy anyways, where you see this quick turnaround with such a small thing.
No, you maybe see it in dramedies or dramas that have a little bit of comedy in them that are considered comedies. You're like, nah, this is a drama, dude. This one is a legit comedy. It's a biopic, but it's a comedy. And that scene too, it also mirrors when Wesley Snipes has to tell him, you got to dig deep. You got to, because it's like he almost already knew that, but then he needed that affirmation from Wesley Snipes to say, take everything. Every time someone said no, every time, like instead of taking this one thing, you're taking everything that's made you that's held you back.
Who you are today.
Yeah. And then use it in this scene.
Yeah.
And it's funny because then I had this in my notes as well. This takes us to the scene we didn't know we wanted, but we needed, when he fights Wesley Snipes.
I want this more.
You know, it's like Wesley Snipes.
And then he rips out his intestine.
Right. But Wesley Snipes was this huge action star. You know, and he's got like a 5th degree black belt or something like that in karate. You know,
Eddie was too for a bit. He had some pretty decent action movies as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, he actually had to fight in Metro, in obviously in the Beverly Hills Cop movies, in Another 48 Hours, both of them. Like, he had to fight. But what I mean is, you have this actual martial artist, and you have Eddie, and they're both in their 50s, and then they end up doing this ridiculous fight. And I'm like, I even said in my notes, it's like, how much did they laugh throughout this movie?
Oh my God.
You know, I would kill to see some of these outtakes.
But okay, speaking of like, you know, Wesley Snipes, but what about all the other like random like cameos, like Chris Rock?
Oh my God.
Friggin' T.I. was in this. And I was like,
Yeah. Chris
Odenkirk.
Rock, yeah, Bob Odenkirk. Well, again, I feel
where
like
are these people? They found like
honestly, I feel like they said whoever created this film, because I don't think it was Eddie himself that got it rolling, but whoever created it said this is gonna be Eddie Murphy's return, and all these people, from Bob
Snoop
Odenkirk.
Dogg. Fuck.
Oh my God, yeah, the first scene is with Snoop. The
Like,
very first scene.
Snoop opens the movie.
And it's so good. But I think they just messaged all these people and
Like, Eddie's in this. You guys want to be in it?
yeah, and everyone was like, yes,
I want to work with Eddie.
Let's do this
Yeah.
now. I mean, there's so much we can talk about this movie.
Oh, totally.
I think if you have not seen this movie, because neither of us watched those Dolemite films. The closest thing was, I remember on Mad TV, Phil LaMarr would do like a Dolemite character, right? And
That's,
it's
I
like,
think, the
it's like
closest.
my pimp Kane or something like that.
That's the closest I would know of it.
That's about it. Of course, you would have heard maybe of these films,
Like,
but
I
you never
honestly
watched them.
Never really. I don't like the blaxploitation genre of film.
Well,
Anyways.
I don't think. I think that was a period. Those were movies of their time
Fair
when
enough.
you didn't see leading black men and women black men and women playing lead characters in big movies.
Which is true, yeah.
You would have the exception: Richard Pryor, Billy D. Williams, Sidney Poitier. Yeah, like you would have those, but for the mainstream, Sidney Poitier was an actual actor.
Like,
He's Sidney Poitier.
like friggin' classically trained. And,
Yeah, Denzel Washington thanked him like when he got his Oscar, saying like, I'm chasing you because, he was the guy.
Well, the argument can be even made like comedians today are chasing Eddie, and Eddie was
course.
chasing other comedians and all that.
Well, Eddie would have been chasing Richard Pryor and Bill Cosby.
it's funny enough, the one Bill Cosby line where his aunt's like, "Oh, he's so sweet, he's gonna be about family and stuff." Knowing what I know now,
Yeah.
it actually made me laugh.
Oh man, yeah. But so final thoughts on the movie?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I want to see more Eddie. I didn't realize how much I missed him until I actually sat down and watched this.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of been putting off watching this because I wasn't sure. I was like, I hear there's a lot of good things about it, but I don't know, man. I've been hurt by Eddie before.
Well, exactly. What was the last movie I think I watched that was live action was Dreamgirls with Eddie.
Yeah.
But movie that was made. I mean, because I've still watched, Beverly Hills Cop and all the classics with him.
But those are when,
No, those are the 80s.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's a fantastic movie. If you have not watched this film, if you want to feel good, just watch this movie.
And
You will feel.
if
You'll
you
have a
Netflix
great day.
account, it doesn't cost you anything because you're already paying for it anyway.
Exactly. It's there.
It's on Netflix. Just search it.
It's for me, I'd give it easily like 4.5 out of 5, whatever, 9 out of 10. No movie's perfect, but for a comedy,
This is close.
this is a great, just really enjoyable film.
It's fun. It's fun.
It's fun. Yeah.
Anyways,
So for Ginger Flicks, I'm Josh.
I'm Joey.
Tune in next time.
And Dolemite is his name, and fucking up motherfuckers is
Is his game. Thanks, everyone.